From ABC News in New York, 2020 continues.
If you're a computer nerd, and we use that term affectionately, you surely know the name Bill Gates. If you don't, we offer some comparisons. What oil did for John D. Rockefeller, and what cars did for Henry Ford, computer software has done for Bill Gates. That has made him one of the wealthiest men of his time. In fact, since Bob Brown first profiled Gates a while back, Forbes magazine just this week says he's moved up in the world from the second richest person in America to the richest. And he's only 37. No wonder then that though Bill Gates is not exactly a household name, in certain circles, he is something of a superstar.
He has sold more discs than Elvis Presley, Michael Jackson, Madonna, and Frank Sinatra combined. But his discs fit into computers. And they have helped Bill Gates become the youngest self-made billionaire in history. He is co-founder and chairman of a corporation called Microsoft, which is pervasive in computer culture and getting that way in pop culture, changing how Americans work and play, supplying software programs that handle chores ranging from word processing to editing video clips on your home computer. Not bad for someone who only a few years ago was often described in the media as a computer nerd.
If a nerd is somebody who's inarticulate, then it might not be accurate. I mean, I go around and give speeches, and I sell software. If nerdy means that I can take a book about, physics and sit in a room for 4 hours and just sit there laughing and having a fun time reading it, yeah, in that sense, I'm extreme.
His current Seattle home is a modest one, with a small, cluttered den as a work area. Even his parties have an air of business about them. This one in his backyard was for Microsoft interns, smart young people that the company recruits intensively. However, one of the hot topics of conversation here wasn't the current state of the computer industry, but Bill Gates' penchant for sports cars.
Acceleration.
Evidence that he can find a few things to do with his money.
What's the horsepower?
He purchased a $300,000 Porsche 959 that's now held up at customs because the model was too expensive to crash test.
Actually, that's what I was dying to ask you guys. Have you gotten your Porsche out of Oakland yet?
My insurance company likes to go down and take a photograph to make sure it's still there every 6 months. 959 will do the national speed limit in first gear. So the other gear... I'm fairly intense, fairly demanding as far as people being smart and really trying to push the edge of what can be done. I like puzzles. I like to think about things. I'm very optimistic that if you're clever enough, you can change the world.
Is that what drives you, the idea that what you do can change the world in some way?
I think the key driving factor is working with smart people and trying to solve very tough problems.
Bill Gates has been working out those puzzles in his mind for as long as anyone can remember. His mother recalls a response she often heard when she went to look for him.
He liked to think. We'd lose him sometime for hours at a time. And when I would ask, "What are you doing?" he'd say, "I'm thinking, Mother."
Gates comes from a prominent and well-to-do Seattle family. His mother is a business executive, his father an attorney. They sent him to learn on this secluded campus at a private school called Lakeside. At the time, in the late 60s, there were no personal computers of the type kids now learn about, but there was a computer terminal in the school connected to a large corporate computer in Seattle. That's where Gates and his friends first learned the ins and outs of how to send commands to computers that made them work. Gates became legendary for doing something the adults couldn't master, writing a computer program that the school used to schedule its classes.
And Bill came in and helped them out and figured out how to use the computer to do the scheduling. Well, no staff member understood what he was doing, and he did a brilliant job of setting a pattern of doing course scheduling by computer.
Even as an adolescent, Gates could sense important changes coming. Then most people knew and visualized computers as those huge machines that filled entire rooms. Gates foresaw the day when computers would be small enough to fit on a desktop and the opportunities would be immense. So at the age of 20, Gates dropped out of Harvard to manage with his friend Paul Allen the Microsoft Corporation. the first corporation dedicated solely to writing the software that would run that coming wave of personal computers.
A lot of these apps use DPMI 0.9. They actually don't use WinMem32.
Gates not only proved his abilities as a computer programmer, but unlike many of the other early entrepreneurs with whom he competed, Gates quickly proved he was also adept at covering angles like royalties and marketing.
Well, we'd make mass money, so they'll never do it that way.
Steve Ballmer is Senior Vice President of Microsoft.
When you work with Bill, you can see that in almost any meeting you're in or anything you're discussing, Bill instantly puts together a profile of all of the cases. What about this? 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 He almost builds this checklist of everything that can possibly happen in his head in a very structured way, and then he runs through it.